Welcome to the Propreneur Podcast, where we help practice owners become better entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dino Watt. And welcome everybody once again to the Propreneur Podcast. Excited to have you here listening again. We hope that we are always giving you the best information possible on your drive to or from work or wherever you're listening to the podcast. And today is no exception, as we have one of the founders of Simplifeye, Dr. Ryan Hungate, with us. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. As we were talking previously before the show started, I actually just got to introduce you at the MKS event just last weekend, I guess it was. And as you keynoted at the very beginning of that, one of the things that I was excited about doing that introduction piece is the fact that you used to work with Apple. I use Apple all the time as an example of a company that knows systems, that understands a great culture, that because of the culture, they've overcome price and economy and location and competition. And so you're going to be just a vault of information. I promise you I'm going to go off probably on some tangents. So get ready.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Well, one thing I really love to do is I love to have our guests really do their introduction, because I always find it weird when I'm a guest on a podcast to sit there and listen to somebody talk about me when I'm like, I'm right here. So please give us a quick introduction, a rundown of how you got into what you do, why you found your passion, or how you found your passion for this.
Cool. Yeah. So Dr. Ryan Hungate, I'm an orthodontist. Prior to all of that, though, I'm just from, a guy from the Midwest and came up from Kokomo, Indiana, went to Ball State University undergrad, which you'll only know because of David Letterman. Basically after that went to Indiana Dental School. But what's interesting is in between my undergrad and my dental school years, I actually worked, like you said, for Apple, and not just at your lowly Apple retail store, which is a fantastic place, but actually out in Cupertino. And what was interesting is the time that I was there, because it was 2007 to 2008. And for any of you that know your Apple history, a little thing called the iPhone came out that year in 2007. So I was there when it went from a good amount of people to the store to an insane amount of people to the store, which was a good problem to have. But at the same time, people were walking by the store wanting to walk in, but it was too intimidating. So I worked directly for a gentleman named Ron Johnson. And as you explained, Apple is just known for workflows, known for the experiences, I'd like to say, because they sell experience in a hardware piece, right? Whereas most companies, they sell hardware and they're like, fix your own experience.
Right.
So we really didn't have that in the stores yet, right? It was really beautiful to be in there, but at the same time, the workflow was not there and it was kind of making itself. So everybody would just come in there and hang out. So I had a crazy idea of quote unquote kicking people out. And Ron thought I was crazy, but he gave me 3 stores to try it out. So I started to triage people as they walked in. And now granted, we didn't have iPads or iPhones. We didn't even have an app store, right?
Right.
It just came
That's
out.
true. Yeah.
So what I did is I had to use limo signs, right? And I had to use walkie-talkies. So really growth hacking. And we actually used pocket PCs at the time. And it was a funny side thing where we would actually blame any problems that we had on the PCs that we had on our hand. Yep. Which was like always this inside joke at Apple. But after we did that, we started to figure out people knew what they wanted and they really didn't have another $600 to spend after they spent the first $600. So I found this threshold of 5 steps to the front with the receipt, and out the front door, they followed me, and the next person would walk in. So it started to look more empty and more people would actually come into the store. I was lucky and I got to deploy that in over 300 different retail locations worldwide, including a lot of Targets and Best Buys as well. And it was about then that all of my friends started to get into their professional schools like dental, medical, vet. And it was funny. I remember going into one of my friends' offices and they go, check this out. This is the newest, coolest thing I got. And I go, man, you got to update your software. It looks like that's like from 1997. They're like, I updated yesterday. And that was the moment where, and what's funny is that was, I forget the operating system, but it was like Dentrix or EagleSoft. And I thought, you know what, if software is cool and new and it looks like this, I might be able to come into this industry and make a dent. So after going through dental school and then getting the itch for orthodontics, going to ortho school, like I was telling you, I had this concept of really automating the business side of practices. And to take that to the next level, I applied to the top incubator at the time, accelerator. It was actually located in New York City, and by chance got in. And really from there, it just took off. We are now a venture-backed company called Simplifeye. We employ over 50 people here in New York City. I've got 100 people distributed throughout the United States chatting for me as well. And it's taken off like a rocket. It's been really fun.
Wow, that's amazing. So what I'm fascinated by a few things. There's a lot of things unlock in this. The first thing is that you saw how effective you were at one thing, which was obviously the flow of how to get people in and out through that store. But number two, then you went and said, oh, look, there's dentists. I can go to dentistry school and I can get that. Oh, become an ortho. I can become a specialist. There's a journey there. There's a journey you went on, and even a mindset that you had to create that helped you get to that place of, from this thing I'm good at to maximizing it. And how can I utilize this inside of this other industry? Did people think you were crazy?
Oh, absolutely. And what's funny is even though she was easily my biggest supporter and was really the person that convinced me to do it, my wife thought I was crazy. Imagine
you were
going
married at the time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got married in dental school, convinced her that I had this great idea of going into dentistry. And what's great is I've known her since second grade. So she's known I've been crazy this entire time. Yeah. But at the same time, like she always followed me around and promoted me. And by far, she is easily the smarter one of the two of us, and it still remains to be my guiding star out there. But I remember telling her right after I graduated ortho school, hey, I'm not going to practice. I'm going to do a startup, and I've got to go to New York City, and you're coming with me. Wow. It's hard at the end of 11 years of school to really tell somebody you're no longer going to use that schooling in the way that it was supposed to be intended.
Yeah, I would bet. Look, I'm in the same boat. I've known my wife since we were 5 years old, right? And just celebrated 25 years. But
nice.
It's that thing, right? It's that you don't have somebody who is willing to take that risk with you and willing to cheer you on and really support you in that. It's a lot more challenging. It's challenging, let alone, and then you add that to it. Like that's awesome. So what I would like to know is, let's talk a little bit about Simplifeye and how you took those processes that you learned through Apple, which, by the way, I believe that, and I think I showed this slide when I was there at MKS, that I like to show people how that upswing and the Apple stock went up through the iPhone when it came out right then. You can see that, right? But right before that, in May of 2006, when they brought out those commercials with the two guys saying, hey, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC, I believe they hypnotized us as a country and made everybody go, oh, I have to choose whether I'm an Apple or a PC guy. Like, really? Because before it was a debate and conversation, but now it's become, oh, no. You're either Apple or PC. And PC, by the way, is everyone else. And so doing that was a real cool thing that they did. So as you take this journey into Simplifeye, what was your first thought of how did you want to more automate the journey of the patient into orthodontics?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember going through dental school and thinking, I didn't get a single day of business classes.
Yeah,
right? I all of my friends who are 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of me, they were starting $1 million businesses. They could fall over and they accidentally had $1 million business. There's nowhere else out there where a person can accidentally start $1 million business. But and don't get me wrong, there's absolutely intent to it. But at the same time, if you open your doors and you do your diligence and you're good at what you do, more than likely you can get it to $1 million business, right? With some help from Henry Schein, Patterson, those guys will help you along the way. Right. But that's it. Otherwise, you are calling the person down the street to say, hey, what did you do the year before I have to do it? That's how we learn business. And that really blew my mind, because I thought, how the heck are we going to do this? How am I going to do this? And then at the same time, when I finally did learn it, how am I going to teach other people to do it? And our first product that we ever created was actually on the Apple Watch. And I thought, what I'll do is I will actually direct people around the office. I will tell them where to go, why to be there, who's waiting in that operatory, and all that good stuff, right? Where to go first. It was so cool, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it completely replaced walkie-talkies, and it was a game changer. And everybody would walk up and they'd say, I got to have this. All the hygienists, all the assistants loved me because I could take their walkie-talkies off. They hated them. And it failed miserably. And there was a big reason for that. I thought, you know what? I'm going to come into this industry and I'm going to inflict my will on these practices because I know what's best for them. And it was better. The problem was I was saying, you have to change, right? You have to not only learn something new, but it is something extra. And you're going to love it at the end of the day, but you have to change a lot of stuff. And roughly 7 out of every 10 practices that we sold would churn, gone in a heartbeat. So I realized right there and then that when I said, okay, I want to change this industry, I need to change this industry with inflicting zero pain, right? So the ideal software in my mind started to become not, hey, what is best for this industry, but what can I do to completely change everybody's business, but at the same time, make them never even notice that I was there. And that's now the complete thesis of Simplifeye. We only make software. We actually work backwards from that. What can I create where you can put it in your practice and almost not even, it's either work neutral or it takes away work. That's all we do. And then we work backwards from that and figure out the product.
Well, what's unique too is the fact that you have the understanding of what the orthodontist has to go through in order to be able to reverse engineer that. I always talk about finding out what they want, like what is it they want, and then if I find that out, I can reverse engineer that because I can then say, oh, we can't give that to you, or you're gonna need to go this path. I love, and I know this isn't a secret. I know people are talking about. As a matter of fact, at the last event I was at one of the tables during lunch, I was overhearing a conversation behind me. Everybody knows that's one of the big challenges is that you go to ortho school, you get zero training on how to be an entrepreneur. And then, and by the way, only 3% of us are entrepreneurs anyway with the DNA in us, right, to do that.
Yep.
So you go through the natural progression of I went to dental school, go to ortho school, I graduate, I become an associate, and then I'm going to go buy a practice and have no idea what to do. And it's not a matter of being a bird pushed out of the nest and learn how to fly, because you're not a bird, like, right? You're not an entrepreneur. And so you're going to fail.
Yes. You've already got a mountain of debt too. That's the real problem is now it's completely changing. I came out of ortho school with $600,000 of debt.
Oh my gosh.
Like, that's insane. Oh yeah, it's wild. And it's not even just ortho, right? It applies across the bridge. It goes for all the way from general dentistry, all the way to your specialties, all the way, I like to say retail healthcare, right? Yeah. Because guess what? Veterinarians, optometrists, ophthalmologists, dermatologists, they're all the exact same.
Yep.
The only ones 100%. That are really kind of excluded from all this are the true like family doctors, family practitioners, because they work for a hospital. They're employees now. Right.
They're employees.
Their time's gone. Yeah.
That's right. No, 100%. That's why with this podcast, we talk to the private practice owner, right? It's the chiropractor, the dentist, the orthodontist, the veterinarian, anybody, because it's about sharing those best practices with people. So as you're going through this process of learning how to reverse engineer and make sure that it's a neutral situation for them, what is it that you really feel is the biggest benefit that your software gives to these practice owners?
Yeah, well, it's really twofold, right? Well, we look at it from two really big hair on fire problems, we call them, right? Things that we actually have to take care of, whether we like it or not. The first one that we started with was just getting new patients into your practice. Yeah, because that's universal, right? You can have, I always call it the leaky bucket theory, right? There's two ways to fix a leaky bucket. First, you can plug all the different holes. It takes a lot of time. It's tough. You might need multiple people to do it, right? Or two, you just dump a ton of water in the top and it overflows, right? New patients are our water to that bucket.
That's right.
I could be running a kind of a rough business. There could be problems with it left and right. But if I have a ton of new patients, nobody cares.
Yep.
Right? Everything's kind of fixed with new patients. So that's where we started. We started with getting new patients into the practice. The biggest thing that we looked at was, okay, you've got the solution reaches the demand forces out there sending text messages and reminding people who have already scheduled appointments to come in. Done. Right. That's a commodity now, and it's old news. And you got people like Legwork that are offering that for a small amount of money. Like there's a lot of those people, and that will get even smaller. Then you've got other people out there that are saying, okay, hey, front desk, I need you to also man those devices, right? You've got, hey, send text to patients.
Sure.
You've got the weaves out there that will send text to patients, which is great. The problem is, once again, you're asking the front desk to do more. They're already busy, right? They're answering phones. The best front desks in the world miss 30% of their phone calls.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best.
Yep.
Why? Because they're fantastic at their job. They're checking on insurance. They're talking with patients. They're scheduling them. Phone calls are very interruptive, right? Because you don't have a choice when they come in. And it's even worse is,
to put that in perspective, sorry to cut you off, but just put that in perspective, I was doing another podcast earlier where the doctor was talking about, look, you miss one phone call that's a patient that turns into a patient every day of the year. That's $1 million not in your practice.
That's insane, right? That's that. I love that.
30%.
There's another thing. For every $100,000 that comes through the door, $5,000 just goes missing. Meaning not that it's embezzled, it's just you completely mishandle it.
Yep.
It's gone.
Yep.
Right. So, and it's not because people are bad at their jobs, it's just we're humans and we have error.
Yep.
So if that's the case, the only solution to all this is automation.
Yep.
So we started to look across the spectrum, because the other thing is like at the end of the year, when you call these other services that I was talking about, especially like search engine optimization, which is good. You need to do that. Good websites. Jerry Seinfeld does a bit about when you walk through New York City of all these really nice restaurants, you'll walk by a 3-star Michelin restaurant, except the awning will be covered in pigeon poop. He's like, it costs them $100 to replace that awning, and it's the only thing people think about them, but they won't replace it. Right. That's like these dental websites that are built in 1997 that they just won't replace. When you see that, like, does anybody want to come in? Like, you think this will be old.
Oh, my wife is the big, I love seeing and watch, because I look to a lot of ortho and dental websites, and my wife will sit next to me and she'll be like, I would never go there. I would never go there. Like the font they use. We're on a mission to get rid of anybody who uses papyrus at all, right?
The avatar font. Yeah.
Right. That's the laziest one ever, right? But yeah, it's so true, because who are you trying to talk to? You're trying to talk to moms. And especially right now, millennial moms, who they go to your website and they look at something, they can tell if it was built 10 years ago. They can tell if you just copy and pasted a font or a logo, you Fiverred it instead of actually getting a professional to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's nuts. So now you've bought into that, right? Because everybody will talk about doing your search engine optimization, your pay-per-click ads, and get a good service to do that, right? There are fantastic services out there to do that. They're all over every single show, and that's kind of why we stay away from that, because it ends up being death by 1,000 paper cuts if you go into that business. So we stayed away from that. But what we said was, okay, so now let's play the game that everybody buys into that, and now you're getting a lot of people to your website. And this is what I noticed in my practice. I was getting thousands of people to my website, almost 1,000 every single month of unique visitors.
Wow.
But I was getting like 5 patients. That made no sense. I owned HungateOrthodontics.com, right? It wasn't accidental that they were getting to my website. It wasn't like, oh, I was searching for Apple and I ended up on HungateOrthodontics.com. That doesn't happen, right?
Wow.
So what happened is they were going there for one reason, if you think about it, right? Nobody comes to a dental website to hang out. It's not ESPN.com.
Right. They're not looking for
how beautiful it is. Exactly. It sucks, right? It's a dental website. Even how beautiful it is,
it's a necessity.
So you have to have it. So if they're coming there to schedule an appointment, let's play the game. When do you look for that nowadays, right? Is it during, your workday at 10 a.m.? No. It's 7:30 p.m. or it's 9:30 p.m. when you put the kids down to bed and you're like, oh my God, I got to schedule my first dental appointment. I got to get this done. So even if they do end up on your website and they want to give you a call on that beautiful big phone number in the top right corner,
and you're not there,
they can't get a hold of you.
Nope.
So what I did is on my website, I popped up one of those chats, right? I popped up a chat and I started to man it myself. And all of a sudden in the first 2 weeks, I scheduled 20 appointments.
No way.
Insane. And I'm like, okay, this is a thing. So then I kept going. I called up my friends. Hey, can I pop up a chat on your website and I'll man it for you? Right, my buddy who owns Ethos Dental Group up in Northwest Indiana. I popped it on his website. First month, scheduled him 17. I ended up being 20% of his new patient influx in just the first month.
Wow.
Right? It was insane. So I'm like, okay, I think this is a thing. The problem is I need to make this scalable, right? And I need to make HIPAA compliant and all that other good stuff that comes with it.
Sure.
So from that piece, then we started to build the system out. I got the engineers involved. We built all of our technology from scratch. And what I did is I started to, actually my wife runs the entire team. She's previous Disney, previous dental front desk. So now she combines those two things together and just runs an amazing team. We have 100 people chatting now for us 24/7. They speak 7 different languages and we respond to every single chat within 7 seconds.
Wow. Wow.
So it's cool. It's really cool. And we've now sent over 1 million referrals. We've had a couple million chats. Yeah, it's insane. And what's funny is the product's called Amplify, but the reason we call it Amplify is we actually have real life human beings chat, right? Because I don't know if you've ever interacted with one of those little bots.
Yeah, where it's like trying to find the keyword and answer based upon the word you said. Yeah.
And then like, even if it's good, like if you finish halfway through or get halfway through and you realize it's a bot, you feel had.
Right.
You know, you're like, I don't,
like, wait a minute.
It's my time. Exactly. So you find the conversion rates on those bots end up being about 11%. They're really bad, right? Whereas when we chat with somebody, the conversion rate's 41%.
Wow.
It's insane.
How much do they, do your people on the other end of the line, how much are they allowed to do? Like, are they just trying to set up an appointment? Are they like, I know this is extreme, but are they quoting like price ranges? Like, what are they doing?
It really depends on what the practice wants us to do. The one thing we don't do is we don't do anything clinical. So we're not like, oh, you're in pain, take some ibuprofen, right? We don't talk about anything like that.
Right.
You know, we will answer things like they ask about rubber band protocol and you're an orthodontist, we'll say, yeah, you should, you know, we have been instructed to wear your rubber bands at night, right? There's little things like that. Or while you eat, you could do that. You could do that as well. But otherwise, it really comes down to how you want us to represent yourself. Sometimes people are like, hey, I want to be super transparent. I want the payments to be upfront. Orthodontics costs $3,000. Whereas other people, most 99.9% of everybody's like, I'm not talking about pricing, but Simplifeye, our Amplify chatters are amazing. And we have set ways where we answer those questions as well to really increase conversion, because that's where the technology comes in, right? Because I've had over a couple million chats, I can actually look at what type of phraseology converts better. And I can basically start to give these things thumbs ups and thumbs down. We can look at it and we will start to propose to our chatters these little pieces and snippets of information that make them better.
Oh, so it makes them sound better and more, not only personal, but that you're also getting both ends of it. You're getting an actual live person, but they're also doing like copywriting, if you will, like live though, where they're guiding people to the right close.
You've got it. Yeah. Exactly. And then we do two things where we either schedule live if you want to, we'll actually literally put them into your schedule, or if most practices are like, don't you dare touch my schedule until they get really comfortable with us. And what we'll do is we will actually say, hey, we create this beautiful piece of software where it's like a CRM or another little place where we think of it like a very simple email client of sorts, where they will get notified immediately via email when that referral comes in. They click on it, they call, and they confirm. So either direct scheduling or like a combination of the two.
Nice.
So the other piece that we really look at is obviously the training, right? Because remember, this has to be universal across the board.
Yeah,
we utilize this for retail
those holes
healthcare.
In the buckets that you're talking about, right? There's a hole in the bucket if you get a great referral and you've got a bad system for when they call or when they're doing the follow-up phone call, you might as well not have a referral.
Yep. And we see that sometimes. It's sad. Sometimes practices will call us and we'll send them 70 patients a month. They'll be like, I got to cancel. And we're like, what? And they're like, my front desk cannot handle the traffic. And it blows my mind. It's only from the outside looking in that I start to see these problems. I never would have told you in my life that I would ever see that problem, but I do. You sometimes you see this and you're like, I'm sending you too many patients.
That's so frustrating. As a business owner, it's like, look, sales are the air that you must be breathing. And if you don't quit your thing, get somebody who can actually handle the volume.
Get an associate, open another location, whatever you got to do, right?
Well, see, again, this goes back to the business side of things, right? Where they're just not thinking it through. Let's see, you send me 70 potential clients, people, referrals that have had a conversation with our professional people. I can't handle that many people because my front desk can't, they're too busy. Let's put that math together. If I hired someone at $30,000 a year, to be just my all-time full-time phone person, how many of that 70 do I need to close to make the ROI on this make sense? But they're not thinking that way.
That's it.
Easily.
1 month.
Easily.
2 weeks.
Yeah. But they don't think that way, right? So that's why one of the things that I hope people that are listening understand is that before you throw away the tool that can actually help you solve the problem, don't get rid of the symptom, right? Your symptom, focus on making sure that you're not dealing with a problem, that you're dealing with a symptom, that you see this person as the symptom. The symptom is they can't do, your front desk can't handle that many people. That's the symptom. That's not the problem. This office, Simplify, or whatever the software is that you're blaming is not the problem. It's that you're not thinking like a business owner and going, okay, how can I make this work? Like having too many people coming in it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem. And it sounds really familiar, right? It's the same thing that I ran into at Apple. We dealt with it. It's the best problem on earth to have. People, right. All you got to do is figure out your workflow. And that's the piece where it's funny, I was talking about training. Our training has to be this simple. We literally call into practices and we say, hey, Stephanie at the front desk, do you know how to open an email? If the answer is yes, you're trained. That's it.
That's it.
Right? We do 5 to 10 minute trainings. That's it. We notify them via email. They click on it. Magically, the software pops up. But we always use magic links. So we utilize legacy technology that they're comfortable with to activate brand new technology. Right? It's a segue platform.
Explain to the listeners what you mean by magic links. Are you talking about links that you can track?
Yeah, so that piece, we do track it, but then on the same time, it opens up securely in the dashboard. So if you've ever used a product like Slack or something like that, they don't use passwords anymore. All they do is they send these what's called magic links, where you click on it and magically it logs you in simultaneously with bringing up the correct patient.
Nice, got it. That's so important. And the tracking side of things is definitely important too, because then you can actually prove to them where it's coming from and what you should be looking at. Wow, this is great. So, okay, so you obviously, I don't even know this. Do you practice still as an orthodontist?
I do 2 days a month.
Wow.
I see a couple hundred patients. I actually fly back to Inglewood, California, and there's a place there called the Children's Dental Center. I see a couple hundred kids there for free. I do a lot of cleft palate and orthognathic surgery work, which was kind of my passion before I went full-time into Simplify. But yeah, I get to do that, and it's a lot of fun. Kind of keeps my hands wet, as you'd say.
That's awesome. So that's fascinating. I'd like to just ask a couple of questions about that. So how did you get involved in this charity?
Yeah, so at USC and UCLA, which usually I don't mention that school, we call that the 4-letter word school when you go to USC. But they both would volunteer at this clinic, and they would be lucky enough, usually as general students, you would go practice in the back. What happened is USC stopped participating in the school. UCLA still does. But because of that, the orthodontic side completely disappeared. They had probably about 100 kids there at the time. They were just left without. And it kind of came down to me. And they said, hey, Ryan, this was in between where I was not sure whether I was going to be in New York or LA when I was starting up Simplify. And I said, I'll catch the slack. I'll go over there and I'll start seeing these patients. Worst case scenario, I'll stop after 6 months. Well, 3.5 years later, I'm still working there to this day.
Wow.
And we've almost tripled the amount of patients in there.
Wow, Ryan, that's pretty cool. That's really great that you've dedicated your time and effort to that. And look, I often talk about how docs don't realize how much I know some people talk about it, and I know some people conceptually get it, but really the lives that you're changing through what you do. I give the analogy to my team members often that everything in life for your patient is going to change, right? Their hairstyle, their weight, their clothing. You're right. Everything. The only thing that will stay consistent is that smile. And it might be that mom who has to look at those pictures of her with her baby and going, I wish I had a different smile. Or that, whatever. I was that kid, right? I was a kid with a supernumerary that had the tooth blocking the other 2 teeth. So I had that weird buck thing going on. And Dr. Farash changed my life. It's not as extreme as a cleft palate, but what you're doing there is completely transforming the trajectory of these people's lives and what they believe about themselves. And I think that's powerful.
Yeah, it's fun. That's the best part, because they're so grateful, because I do it for free. So they would not be able to afford it otherwise. Inglewood, which is interesting. I always say when Tupac raps about it, it's probably not that nice of a place. Right. Interestingly enough, it's right next to the brand new stadium that's being built. So now the neighborhood's becoming pretty darn nice. It's in the middle of this transition process. But at the same time, still, the patients that come to our clinic are definitely underprivileged. Yeah. So you will see kids that go from, actually a good example is this little girl. She's probably one of my favorite patients. She came in originally had very buck teeth, was getting made fun of by her friends. At the very end, she just came back and she ran her first half marathon, the Los Angeles half marathon. She has like all this confidence. It's insane.
Awesome.
And like, you're right. They all of a sudden start dressing differently. They do their hair differently because it can have the reverse effect, right?
Right.
So you might look really good and change and your smile's bad. But it also, I've seen kids go from like the greasy hair, they don't take
100%.
care of themselves, their weight's bad. All of a sudden their smile goes good and something clicks and everything wins.
I remember I was in an office in like Delaware or something. And I remember I was sitting in an exam and this lady comes in, probably about 40 years old. And they're running a special about getting braces. And she comes in and they just said, so, why are you thinking about braces right now? And she had some pretty, a lot of problems going on with her teeth.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I've never smiled in my life and I want to smile. It's like, how do you not help that out? So that's amazing. Okay. So I know, right? Surely get the tissues out.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
So let me ask you a couple more questions. I know we're running short on time, but one of the things that I would love is you talk to a lot of docs, you see a lot of practices, obviously you practice yourself. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges? I believe every business has challenge no matter what. Like you might even have challenges that can relate to this in your business.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you see happening in practices?
The biggest challenges I see right now are scalability. I really see that doctors are these do-it-yourself types. We all are. We're passionate about that. We are growth hackers extraordinary. I've seen doctors use tools like that. They bend it into the shape of another tool and all of a sudden it's doing the right thing. Like if something goes down in the office, we're not closing. We're going to go build that thing out of Legos and keep going. Right. That's just what we do as retail physicians, right? We get that stuff going because we like patients. That means money. And it also, we truly care about those patients as well, that we want to get them through the practice. So we don't want them pissed off saying, hey, sorry, something's broken or I can't use this. But because of that mentality, we like to do everything ourselves. So when you start a practice, you can ask a general dentist, what all do you do? I do everything.
Everything.
Oh, cool. So you do everything okay, right? Whereas if they just looked at what they could do the best, I always think of this, endo is the easiest example, right? General practitioners doing molar endo. Why are you doing that, right? 2.5 hours later, you finish and you're like, I found all the canals. And then 2 months later, a patient comes back and you missed a canal. What was that worth? It was worth absolutely nothing. Now you got to pay for their endo where they go to the other endodontist. Just refer stuff out. Like there's small things like that, but there's also like, it's the end of the month. I guess I should go reconcile my own books, right? They don't bring in an accountant. Oh, cool. Yep. I need to go teach team culture because I'm a certified coach. No, you're not. Go find a great consultant that's going to teach you this stuff, right? Yep. One of the I forget what it's called, but Horowitz just came out with an amazing new book. From Andreessen Horowitz just came out with a new book, and it's talking all about team culture. Right now, we're halfway through it. It is ridiculous how good he was originally the person that wrote The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's now standard to read that at Stanford Business School. It's absolutely everywhere. But it's the first time that he brought out another book, and right now it's getting raving reviews. I'm only about halfway through it, but it's really, really good. It talks about you are the culture you create, right? Which is really, really cool. He's got some really good analogies in there. Highly recommend it. But no, when it comes to scalability, though, right, at the end of it all, I always think it's easy to do something once, right? We could make a flying car one time. That's not a problem. Right? Sure. Engineering can take you anywhere now once. Yeah, sure. The problem is mass manufacturing and it's selling it to 500,000 people, dealing with the new roads in the sky and, the regulations. That's a different thing. Yeah. Right? It's the same thing in a practice. I can do an implant once. Now, let's play that we're going to do 2,000 implants. Right? Now we got to deal with the failures. Now we got to deal with printing splints. We got to find a splint manufacturer. All this different stuff. So I've always found that the only way to deal with this, in my mind, is either there's two ways. You either go to continuing education, you continue to try to do everything yourself. Mm-hmm. Or what you do is you set up these technology automation platforms, right? where you trust outsourcing certain pieces of it. So your splints, get somebody else to make it for you, scan somebody. There's all these things with technology that doctors have to start to look to if we're going to scale, because guess who does? The DSOs.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Or take it to the ultimate level, right? And I'm going to say the bad word, the Smile Direct Clubs.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Smile Direct Club has got that stuff down, right? $300 million in advertising, open 24/7. That's one hell of an experience. You never even have to get off the couch and you can straighten your teeth. Not well, in my opinion, but at the same time, you can do it.
Yep. That's right.
Good.
That is so key, because I have in my book the process of delegation versus relegation, that it seems like it's one or the other, right? Either I'm going to delegate the stuff, or I'm just going to be like, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to hear about it. Like, you just take care of it, which is terrible. But when we're going to duplicate something in our business, when we want to really have the maximum impact that we can in the business, we've got to be willing to not be the end all of all things, right? The jack of all trades. I joke about this, but it's true. I had a doctor once who I called up and I said, hey, so, how are you doing? And he's like, oh, our computers have been down for the last 3 days. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. And he goes, yeah, I've been working on them and I can't get them done. I was like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't know you got a degree in IT too. Yeah. And he was like, well, no. And he knew where I was going to go. And he's like, but I really like working on it. I'm like, I don't care. And so I am passionate about this idea of hire a professional to do a professional job. I'm not going to go to my baker and say, hey, can you watch a couple of YouTube videos on how to straighten my teeth and then do my braces? I'm not going to do that. Go and get a professional. Don't be doing your books. By the way, your mother-in-law, who's really good with numbers, is not
your book. Yeah, exactly. She's not she doesn't do $1 million businesses all day long,
well, I'll even be even more close to it. Your wife, who really wants to make sure that she has all the numbers, is not a bookkeeper. They are not. It's like, just hire a professional to make your life so much easier. So I absolutely agree. And it's the only way you're going to scale it. It's the only way to scale it. Thank you for that. We're going to put the link to that book. And
it's actually called, I looked it up. It's What You Do Is Who You Are by Ben Horowitz.
What You Do Is Who You Are by Ben Horowitz. We'll put that in the show notes, because, as you know, culture is my thing. I love culture. I believe you can design it the way you want. And so here we go. I mean, Horowitz being able to bring that out, that's amazing. Man, I could talk to you literally all day long. This is great stuff. I love it. I hope that everybody reaches out. By the way, how can they reach out to you and find out more about Simplifeye?
Yeah, well, I mean, heck, I'll give you my personal email, but at the same time, you can always go to our website. So our website is simplifeye.com. We spelled a little bit weird. It's SIMPLIFEYE.com. So it's funny, we actually started on Google Glass, and that's where the EYE comes from back in the day, but we just kept it like an appendix, right? Like from our caveman days.
You don't have your glasses? You still don't have
No. Oh, I still got them. They've got all kinds of dust underneath the bed. Oh yeah, I remember my as they would call us, the glass holes. It was a special time.
I didn't know that. That's a great term.
Oh yeah. Yep. They coined that phrase, and that was the death of Google Glass altogether. You can do that, or you can obviously reach out to me at Ryan@simplifeye.com as well.
All right. Well, very good. Well, everybody, I hope you got a ton of great information. Even if you took out the idea of how to simplify your office, like figuring out what you need and reverse engineering that, whether it be about, learning the culture or scalability of your practice, really even looking at your practice a little differently as an entrepreneur than as a practitioner. Whatever it is you took from this show, I really hope that you got more tools and tips on how to be more proactive, more productive, and more profitable in all areas of your life and business. Thank you so much for Ryan for being here. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much again for listening to the Propreneur Podcast. We really appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do so. Also, if you feel like you might be a good fit for our podcast as a guest, or know somebody who you think would be, go ahead and email us at dino@dinowatt.com. Again, thanks for your support. We'll see you on the next episode.